Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. Welcome aboard the Blitz train. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and this is a look at the T110E5. What a gloriously remarkable result, all from one solitary haircut. That's what we got here with the E5. We got a haircut. Previously, the E5 had a massive tumour, a machine gun commander's hatch thingy all over the left-hand side of the tank. And it made it easy pickings when it tried to hull down and stay alive long enough to actually get shots off. Well, now this is the best hull down tank at tier 10. And it should be, because it's got gun depression. It's got all the things that you want out of a hull down tank. And it's not Russian. And amazingly, I mean, if I had to pick one heavy tank to drive at the moment, I'd choose the E5. And I know that's an unpopular opinion with a lot of players, but golly gee willikers, this thing combines so many of the characteristics that I adore in tanks. It has good gun handling, it has excellent gun depression, and it has a strong turret and very solid mobility numbers. You put all, I mean, look at some of the shots that this thing's going to pull off for you. And this is just gorgeous. It has waited so long for this and so thoroughly deserves it, all for the want of one solitary haircut. I actually had to make this. Look at this shot. Hit the drive wheel. Didn't do the drive wheel, didn't take it out, but still hit the drive wheel, no problems, dashing back and forth. And we're going to hit a gorgeous shot on the 57 Heavy here, right at the end, to clear him out. I had to make this video today because my problem is I can't stop driving this tank. On my contributor account on Asia, I've driven 61 games at 73% and 2,700 average damage. And most of the games, if not all of them, have been solo. It is easily my favorite heavy. That is the old E5. That is the unhappy place right there. This artist representation shows you exactly where to shoot if you wanted to cause rage and iPad biting angst in the driver of the T110E5. And this is the E5 now. This sleek, modified, gorgeous looking individual is a far cry from the E5 of yesterday. It can still be penned on the hatch, and this is from the Bat Chat's perspective with only 224 millimeters of pen, right? So don't think that you are actually looking at it as it will always be, but it shows you if you've got a low pen gun against you, like a tier 9 gun, like a tier 9 medium or something, you can do crazy things. And the gun handling is lovely. You're going to see this is like an old Western movie where they come at me from the doors of the saloon, I clear off, dodge a couple of bullets, spank another bloke, and then blow the smoke off the 6 guns as I take the girl, jump on the back of my white horse, and ride off to my ranch in the high Sierra. Just gorgeous. Gorgeous gun handling, gorgeous everything. Let's talk about the gun itself. It's a 120mm gun, M58. 7 rounds a minute, 258mm of pen on your AP, and 348mm of pen on your APCR. Now, I have run it with both rammer and with calibrated shells, because calibrated shells will get you up to 374mm of heat pen. I found it's not absolutely necessary. The time it'll let you down is dealing with mouses, but that's a mouse, and I'm not going to kind of predicate my whole playstyle based on that one tank, so I'm just running it with rammer. Look at how agile she is and how good hull down. So I know this tank's behind me, so I put my bum to the tanks behind me and get them lined up with that little bit of debris, the broken wall to my back, and there you go, there's the Bat Chat. The M103 can't come out and get me, so I'm now hull down with that lovely armor profile, bending and stretching, showing them that upper glacis completely hiding my lower glacis. All they can see is that beautiful tier 10 turret. He thinks I've fired now. I've done that before. When you bounce a shot off your gun manlet and the smoke comes up, if people look back, it sometimes looks like you've just fired and they pop out. I bet you London to a brick that's what that Leopard 1 did, because I absolutely have done that more times than I can count. How much do you think this Leopard PTA on the right loves me? He is on a flogging to nothing. They are 4 tanks pushing up. I have run all the way back here to help him out. And hello, hull down, Dorothy. You are going to absolutely save the day. Anyone who comes around that corner now gets a great dose of DPM and aggression They can't really pen me unless I sit still. You can pen the hatch on this tank, don't get me wrong, but unless you sit still, like, it's great. It's a great tank, just great, gorgeous. You will still get penned on your lower glaciers if you're silly enough to sit still in front of people, but you can bounce shots. It's much like, there is now this wonderful synergy between this tank and the M48A1 pattern. The pattern is very similar in design. It's got that rounded lower glacis and upper glacis, which isn't as strong as the upper and lower of the T110E5, but at the same time, it creates awkward angles. So when you're brawling, as long as you are moving this thing around backwards and forwards, you can cause all kinds of fear and trepidation. And we do, in fact, go through to save the day here, get a steel wall and, 4K damage, and that our Leopard PTA sends us a thumbs up at the end of the game as well, because he lives through this and actually does a lot of damage. This is your happy place right here, BCAP at the not Black Canyonville, at Canyon. This is gorgeous. This is where you want to be. Sleek turret, gun depression, all the hallmarks of a great spot. And you will find with this tank, if you can put it in positions where it will get some kind of a hull down area, you can hold against really big odds. Like, people don't remember that this tank has DPM, 2850 DPM. That's just to give you some kind of perspective on what kind of damage per minute number that is. That is about the same as an E50M, maybe 100 DPM a minute less than the E50M. But what do you have on top of that? Well, you have a gorgeous 8 degrees of gun depression. If it had 10 degrees of gun depression, this tank would be OPAF. But it doesn't. It's got 8 degrees, so happy days. You've got excellent traverse numbers for a heavy tank, I find. Anyway, 32.98 degrees of traverse once you're running all of the bells and whistles. And you can see firing through the tracks is a real thing. People don't do it often enough. And this grill pushes up on me, not realizing that my reload is now quite a bit lower than his. And he doesn't have the gun depression to get the gun down for an easy shot on the lower glacis. So we get a 7-second reload, HE into the lower plate, ta-ta grill. The gun itself, let's talk about that. 0.321 dispersion and 3 seconds of aim time when you've got it all buffed up. Now, 3 seconds of aim time is really the key here. There are a lot of tier 10 heavies that have that kind of dispersion number, but it's not about that at all. And if you've driven the IS-7 lately, you'll know how painful like the 5.7 base aim time of the IS-7 can be, and to a lesser extent some of the other aim time numbers like the aim time you get on IS-4, you're looking at 5 seconds of aim time. Having 3 seconds of aim time on a gun with 0.321 dispersion, it makes all the difference. It allows you to peek, get that strong turret into play, take the shot quickly, snapshot if you will, and then pull back. You've still got 2,000 hit points. You've still got enough traverse to get around and jiggle your hull and your turret. All these things make life so much simpler for a tank like the T110E5. Now, I'm not saying that it will be perfect, because on a lot of maps, there simply are situations where you can't get that gun depression in the game. For instance, if you go on the rail section of Himmelsdorf, as you will be called upon a lot to do in the current meta, then you can struggle. You want to try and find the rubble area and go hull down on that. If you go and push town on vineyards, you can often get into trouble there as well, because you end up getting stuck in a situation where there are no hull down spots. So you really need to soak up the maps and find positions where you can put your tank to best effect. And that means in this tank, every single time you need to be looking for a hull down position. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite hull down positions on vineyards as well. I mean, the gun. The gun just works. I've kind of got to the point now with IS-7s where I just fire heat. And you'll get good shots like this, which shouldn't go in right next to the gun there, but it does. The reason is because I can't tell you how many times I've gone, well, I can pen that IS-7 with AP, obviously, because that's a clear lower glacis, and it just bounces. And I'm just over it. I'm just like, I'll take the lesser average damage of a heat round and just actually get the thing to pen, because otherwise you can end up really, really hating life as you try to pen an IS-7 like that, bouncing off the front pike with heat. That is just so, in case you're wondering, that's a 340 pen round bouncing off a pretty clear skin. Like, IS-7s are just still god-awful for actually giving you bounces. Even when you've got side shots on turrets with IS-7s, I'll still just heat smack them because I'm so over that. And the only time I won't go to heat is if I got drive wheel shots. If you're shooting wheels, obviously, and you're shooting the side skirts, you want to be using AP. Or if you've, I mean, you can see there, that's a straight through the drive. I should just use heat straight through the upper plate again. And we're losing teammates here at a great rate. But the reason I included this wasn't because it was a huge number and we won. It was because I wanted to highlight just how effective this tank is with gun depression and a strong turret. We were able to walk up and pour damage into those IS-7s because we had a good turret and we had gun depression. And we didn't have that shaved off commander's hatch sitting there saying, hey, if you shoot me, you'll do 460 damage to this T110E5. All you've got to do is roll the dice and hit it. You can still pen it, but you've got to go over 200 millimeters in a very, very small area. And as long as you're not moving your tank, you can reliably negate that. Now, true thing, if you actually do fire Hesh from a 183 at that hatch and hit it, you will do 400 to 500 to 600 damage into it. If you're in a 183, that's where you should be hitting this tank if you don't have any other options. Spoiler alert. Again, tracking straight through the drive wheel. We've lost everyone else though, so unfortunately we missed the shot we needed to land on this Leo. I'm rushing here because there are another two tanks. We clear the FV4202. I'd really love to get this shot back on this Leo, but you know, whatever. We're not going to. Oh, bugger me. It's very frustrating, that one. And then the grill comes screaming over the top, and there's a 183 as well. And basically my plan is to bounce the shot off the Leo, off the back of my turret, into his tank and kill him. There's no other options. Look at this. Like, the margins. Oh, good God. You know what happened there? I hit the end of the grill's gun as I went to shoot the Leo, and it said, we didn't even scratch him. I mean, get out of town. That is absolutely crazy, the margins of error in this game. We weren't going to win it anyway. That grill had far too many hit points, and the 183 just had to breathe on me and I was dead. But you can see, hull down, just smashing out the damage, 5,095 there. I'm going to show you a brilliant spot, an absolutely brilliant spot. Now, I've been very, very sneaky here. I've waited under this area until they've pushed in, and then I've popped up, and I'm going to keep resetting that C-cap, and I'm going to farm damage while they try to cap that C-cap with an incredibly strong upper plate and turret. The other thing that happened with this tank, which isn't talked about as much, I showed, you can see that's a HE shell from that E100, I believe. Or it might have been the T54 hitting the top of the turret. I'm not sure. Either way, one of the things that's not talked about enough is the fact that the video I sent to Wargaming that pulled the idea in front of their heads that the actual gun mantlets on the American tanks weren't loading correctly, or they weren't displaying correctly, has been really beneficial. Like, the fact that they fixed the zero armor behind the turret thing means that even if someone fires heat at the middle of the turret, they get a true 500 millimeters of armor and they don't actually pen it. And you can see that spot there is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because you're overlooked from behind by the TDs who like to camp with the churches, and you can get really big spotting damage numbers there as well. One last game, T110E5 on just a spot that highlights the glories of having 8 degrees of gun depression and a turret that can do the business, and that is this map. There's one of my favourite tanks to shoot, the Type 61, with the huge, enormous weak spot on top of the already enormous weak spot, which is the turret. I mean, why it needs an 85mm bit of rubbish, I'll never know, on top of its turret, but it does. Hopefully one day they pull that, because it's not like it has a T110E5 turret below it anyway. It's already got a massive weak point there as is, and has to go and use gun depression at the best of times to get shots off. I'm trying to HE the top of that T110E4's hatch just to be a clown and actually annoy him, so that he maybe hangs around and gives me shots. People can get really frustrated when you just snipe tiny little bits of damage off them. Make a bit of an error here. I'm not sure which TD is up in that back corner. 475, so I'm guessing that's the Yag Tiger. Indeed it is, in fact. And then we're back to just using our gun depression and our good mobility here on the top of the tree. Now, something that really is not that great about the tank, it does get up to 35 kilometers an hour, which is its top speed, or 37 rather, but 37 is kind of low. Like AMX 50Bs, IS4s, IS7s, those are tanks which can all reliably pump out big 40 kilometer plus, even up to 50 kilometers an hour, and that makes a big difference in terms of getting to your spots. It's fair enough though, if this tank was any faster, it would probably be a tad outrageous. It's already hard enough for mediums and things to deal with the E5. It's a great one for dominating medium tanks. And that said, I don't think it holds the tank back a terribly large amount. You can see I'm quite frustrated by this. There are 3 TDs in spawn. No one's moving up. Apart from, we're going to get 2 guys go to the right soon to cover that push by that medium over there. I think it's a 61. I don't get anyone going to the left, despite the fact that I do get pushed on from the left. And here we go. We've got the Stalwart, the E100, and the T54. Just trying to get the T54 to move a little bit. Now the gun, it's not foolproof, but running a vertical stabilizer with this gun is a huge benefit. And we do get one straight through there, AP straight through. We've dropped adrenaline, so I'm keen to get out and use it. And we're going to get another one here, straight through the side next to the gun. There's usually a weak point on most of that T54, Type 59, T54 lightweight, all those kind of tanks, even, you know, your STBs and everything like that. Right next to the gun is where they tend to put the weak points, because they don't have big mantlets. So if you're in a dire situation, you can always do that. Now I'm going to try and reverse side scrape here. I do get the reverse side scrape going on, but I can't get the turret round fast enough to negate that 61's shell. And then I'm going to set up so that I'm reverse side scraping off that rock there, and if the E100 and everything push around, I can watch them on the mini-map and not get caught out. And I can see that E100 is actually pushing up into the medium there, so I'm going to turn and chase the Leopard 1s in a bit of strife. And that's what happens when the teams get very stagnant. It's not the Leopard 1's fault. It's really the TDs sitting at the back and not doing much of anything. The 183, I think, finishes with under 1,000 damage. And they just let that E100 waltz on up there. He should have been dead. And now I'm getting perma-spotted by the T54, which is really annoying, because the E100 can now see me constantly. And because of that, anytime I try and poke and get a shot on him, he's going to be able to thump me, which is not good, right? It's not good at all. Now let's talk about a few more stats while I sit here in a horrible situation waiting for my TDs to get off their buttocks and actually do something. So 2,000 hit points, that's on the low end, but it's a bit more than your tier 10 mediums, 300 under that E100. I really love where Wargaming has got this tank in terms of balance at the moment. I think it's a great thing. 33 degrees of traverse on your tracks, 24 degrees of traverse on your turret at the top of the tier, and that's just enough to not make it OP as hell in terms of dealing with mediums. And as you saw before, getting the turret around so they can't get shots into you when you're looking the wrong direction. 0.321 dispersion, 3 seconds of aim time, 7 rounds a minute, which is just lovely. And you can see, even with heat, I'm not having any great issues getting through the turret of that E100. It's only really the turret of the mouse that's going to stress you out. So I wouldn't run calibrated shells on this. You might run calibrated shells, say, on a FV215B, Look, here's the thing, I've run calibrated shells on this and the 215B. The 215B has massive DPM, right? Even with calibrated shells, it's still got 200 more DPM than the T110E5. And it also has just gorgeous gun handling. But either way, neither is the wrong answer, basically, is what I'm saying. Your view range of 280 is pretty solid too, and you can alter that by running binoculars. I'd never run a camo net on any of these tanks anyway. I wouldn't bother with it. And the line itself is a great line to run. I really enjoyed this line. 5,147 damage, 1,378 XP, which is good base XP too. So that's it, guys. Shave and a haircut for the T110E5. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant stuff from Wargaming. It only took them, sarcastic voice on, this is inverted commas, like 3 years to actually remove the turret, to actually remove the commander's hatch that we've been screaming out for them to remove for such a long time. And to give you some kind of idea on why that's been so frustrating, in both console, which is another variant of World of Tanks, and in PC, the turret got buffed years ago to the point where it was not an easy pen. It was actually 233 millimeters and 226 and 250 millimeters of armor on that turret. And we had to put up with like 130 millimeters in Blitz forever. And it really ruined the quality of the gameplay for the tank. But now it's got a beautiful roll. It's got a very special niche at tier 10. I think it's the best hull down heavy in tier 10. What are your thoughts? What are your comments? I mean, for me, it's very hard to argue with the results, but I liked it before. So, I mean, liking it before and getting a hold of it now, and gee, it is a wee ripper. Until next time, boys and girls, make sure you watch the streams. I'm giving away a tier 5 tank every single stream. That is Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central European time. We gave away an SU-85-1 today to Hunk_replay. We've given away... what is it? Let's have a look now. We've given away given away a Panzer 5.4, an SU-122-44, a T14, an Excelsior, and an SU-85I so far this week, which is pretty freaking cool. On a Sunday NA time, 5:30 p.m. East Coast, 8:30 p.m. West Coast, and on a Thursday NA time, 5:30 p.m. East Coast, 8:30 p.m. West Coast. Watch the channel for details. Look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield.